Hello everyone, this is Denise at All My Dolls, and I'm starting with all of the outfits I have made for Felicity. If you saw my All the Doll video, then you know that the reason why I'm starting with Felicity is I've only made one outfit for Kaya and just not really comfortable making outfits for her yet. At some point, I will. So at any rate, and I'm going to say Felicity instead of Elizabeth because technically, for the most part, I haven't made anything specifically for Elizabeth. Now, if you're familiar with the stories, which I'm vaguely familiar with, is that Elizabeth is supposed to be more wealthy than Felicity, and so her outfits are going to be a little more richer. For the most part, they will be the same style, but they'll usually be of better fabrics. So at some point, I will have like satin dresses for Elizabeth or things like that, but I haven't quite got around to that. Secondly, I just want to point out that some of the patterns I'm using are for AG dolls versus PC dolls. Now, technically, Elizabeth would not have been a PC doll, but some of the early AG dolls still have a larger body than some of the later AG dolls. And I don't know if that's just because Mattel used whatever bodies they had until they started manufacturing bodies, which is what they did with the heads. So some of the AG dolls that are after the end of the Pleasant Company era still have AG stamped on them. So it's actually a real thing. And so at any rate, modern patterns usually cater to the sizes of the modern dolls. And let me see if I can define what's modern. I'd probably say maybe it seems like dolls that are maybe 2009, might even be a little before that or a little after that. They seem to be a little chunkier. And so a lot of the patterns are written for those dimensions, the Pleasant Company dolls are going to be quite a bit off. Sometimes they're like a half an inch off. It just depends on your proportions. But a lot of times it's a quarter of an inch. And I can get away with scanting the seams, which means reducing the seams from the typical quarter inch to sometimes an eighth of an inch. It cuts it close when I scan the seams, but sometimes that's all it takes because it gives an extra quarter inch in places. Sometimes I have to increase the pattern by 105%. And sometimes I just wing it and add an extra quarter inch around the pattern. So it really depends. This particular patterns, I believe this was all-time fashion on eBay. I'm sorry, not eBay, on Etsy. And if I remember to, when I go back, I'll make sure. And if pattern makers are listening out there, this is not a rub or anything, but it'd be really cool if you would put the name of the pattern and your shop name onto the patterns, because I know people like me have hundreds of patterns. And usually once I've cut them out, I don't always print out instructions. I usually look at those on my device. Once I print them out, I have no way of remembering where the pattern came from. So I just have a pattern and there's no stamp on it. Sometimes it doesn't say the name of the pattern. Most of the times it doesn't say the name of the creator. And if a piece falls out, I really have to do a little bit of work to figure out where it came from. Or if I'm doing a video like this, I have to dig through a couple hundred patterns on the computer to try to figure out which pattern it was. But I want to say this one, I believe, is all-time fashion. And this colonial dress is roughly what it's called. So this particular dress is like a round gown. Okay, and it's the style of dress that are a lot of Felicity's dresses from the Pleasant Company collection. Round gowns. Well, in particular, these ones. So if you're not familiar with Lady Rebecca's fashions, she is a historic costumer. She's also a avid American Girl doll collector. And she does this whole series, which was really cool, something I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm so glad she did it because it's a lot of work. And she talked about the historical accuracy of the outfits that Pleasant Company makes. And one of the things about this round gown is historically, round gowns were generally closed up in the front. They were pinned closed. There are some historical instances where the dress did close in the front, and especially with children. So this particular dress is not 100% accurate, but it's not inaccurate either. So it's kind of a depends thing, but it's good enough and it works well. So this is what you see for the basic pattern. And I want to say that there were variations in the sleeve type with this pattern, but I chose to keep it simple. I've got my lace around the neck and there's lace around the sleeves. And she's not wearing her fichu. I did make it. I think after I changed from Christmas, it kind of took a walk. You'll probably see it as I go through this tubs of clothes I made for her. I wanted to make this dress to kind of model her. Is it the spring fair? No. I think it's a summer dress. It's the white one with the blue ribbon, and so it's completely plain. And I actually have a pink ribbon that I put around here, but when I put her apron on, you can't see the ribbon. And like I said, I took it off for Christmas. That particular pattern comes with a cap. I'm going to take the hat off. And just in case you're curious, I got 2 of these off of eBay. They are from the Be Forever Felicity accessories. And I just peeled the blue ribbon off. And basically, I decorate the caps to whatever they're wearing, which is pretty historically accurate. You just kind of decorate your cap. So she has on here a cap. And did I put any elastic in this? No, actually I did not put any elastic in this cap. And one of the caps actually put the hole in and pulled the drawstring through. So if that one pops up, I'll show you. I am obsessed with these caps. This is probably one of the best ones I've made. It's completely hand stitched. I really took my time with this guy. And the lace, of course, matches her outfit. There was, as you can see from the indentation, a pink ribbon that matched the ribbon around here. And I'm not sure where it went, but like I said, by the time I go through the tubs, I'll probably find that ribbon. Now, Elizabeth has on the exact same dress, and this is just a cotton print I got from my local quilt shop, who's not so local anymore. And the pinner apron, she doesn't have her pins, but Felicity has her tiny pins. And as you can see, her cap does have the green on the top of it. What I want to point out, which may become obvious to you at some point, is that down here you can see the bottom of Elizabeth's petticoat. So the AG clothing and a lot of the, well, some of the clothing, because I guess it depends, that you get from patterns from Etsy sellers and other pattern makers is geared towards the length of clothing that children would wear. And then there are outfits that are in the fashion, style, and length and adults would wear. So when I made this particular petticoat, it was for a dress that was in the fashion of adults. So you can see the length difference between those two. And so I'm just going to be in the habit of making a bunch of petticoats that are for the adult versions of the clothes and petticoats that are for the kids version. I'm going to spin this around and see if yes. So the pattern designer did put the splits in here for the pockets, and Felicity is wearing, I've got her in her pocket hoops. So yes, those are, she's wearing those. And yeah, she is wearing her stays underneath. Now, Elizabeth, I haven't made any stays for Felicity's era. All of the corsets that I've made so far have all been Victorian. So at some point, too, I have to get around to making the support garments for the other eras. I need an Edwardian pair, and I might probably make a. Actually, I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to make next, but I'm definitely going to make the Edwardian pair. Oh, let's have a look at the shoes. I totally forgot about the shoes. This pair of shoes I made matches the calico jacket. Oh, no, actually, that's Felicity's school jacket from Pleasant Company Patterns. So I'm going to leave these on. You'll see that soon. And this particular shoe, the other one popped off and fell somewhere. This particular shoe right here is part of an English gown that I made for Elizabeth and Felicity Christmas before last, I think. Okay, so I'm still trying to get this lighting thing together. I don't know which lighting looks best. Oh, definitely not that one. I don't know. Anyway, it's not really possible for me to get natural light in this particular room. So, at any rate, here, this is Felicity and Elizabeth in the Christmas outfits I had them in. And I apologize in advance that Felicity's jacket is not laced. It's actually a little complicated to lace those jackets. And I can't quite figure out what happened to the lace. So when I do the other version that I made first, I will definitely lace that one. But at least in this one, you can see her Pleasant Company stays. So this particular jacket is a caraco. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. And it's modeled after the one, I want to say it's in Williamsburg, historical Williamsburg. It is pretty much the exact same jacket. And there was a historical seamstress, I think it was from the historical Sew Fortnightly, who actually recreated it. It's very pretty. At some point, I really am going to make one for myself. So there's the ruffles on the sleeves and the neckline, the 3/4 inch sleeves. You'll be able to see better how it closes and is really nicely fitted on the other one. My favorite part of it is I don't know if you call it a dovetail. Maybe it's a dovetail jacket. I don't know, but it's just, I love the back of the jacket. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It just fits so nicely. And I want to say it accentuates the waist and goes smoothly over the hips. It's kind of what I want to say. She and Elizabeth are wearing the same petticoat. I made those petticoats for the Christmas before this past one and never got them dressed. So when I went to make the jackets, realized I didn't have enough green fabric. I chose another green fabric, and I realized when I got home it was not the same one, but whatever. I mean, it's not historically accurate. You can mix and match, so we're perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. But it is the same petticoat you're going to see over and over again. I just make them in different colors for her different outfits. And this particular petticoat is based off of the Christmas dress, the Pleasant Company Patterns. You can see the split for the pockets. And I didn't put the pockets under here, and I decided that as I'm going through these dresses, I am not going to put the pockets. I'm going to show you each pocket individually because it's a lot easier to show the pockets if I'm just holding them to the camera instead of trying to peek in between the petticoats. Elizabeth is wearing Felicity's Christmas dress from the Pleasant Company patterns. And what I did to it to make it more of an English gown is I extended the side so that it would close down the center front like an English gown would, and it would be pinned into place. Now, unfortunately, well, she just has too much stuff on for the moment, and I did not close the dress completely, but that's kind of how it would be closed. So just kind of think about it like that. I'll fix it all up later. On this dress, Felicity's Christmas dress has ruching and the, I want to say engagements. I have to remember how to say them right. But at any rate, it has both of those on here. I decided that I did not want to do the ruching. Ruching is not always my favorite thing. And so we have no ruching on this one, but we have the ruffles. I absolutely love the ruffles. And you'll find, I remember what outfit it is. It's one of the other ones where I actually did do the ruching. So it'll come up eventually. And you can see that this gown does have the slits inside of the side and in the petticoat. Elizabeth is not on a Lazy Susan like Felicity is, so it's a little more complicated to turn her around. And I'll show you more detail later. One thing I do want to point out, and I will show this to you. Well, I'll show it to you now because I'm about to switch their clothes. Are the hand-sewn eyelets. I actually love hand-sewing eyelets, especially, I mean, you could imagine after I made 10 of those Victorian corsets. And so I'm practicing. I'm just getting better and better, and I actually really enjoy it. Kind of find it meditative. I actually like sewing eyelets more than I like sewing the ruching. Here is the caraco jacket again. The pattern is Felicity's school outfit from the Pleasant Company patterns. I actually laced it closed this time with the bright red lace, so you can kind of get a feel of how it looks. She is wearing her Pleasant Company stays underneath and her pocket hoops. This petticoat right here is the same petticoat from the Christmas dress, and Felicity only has on one petticoat right now. Elizabeth actually has on two. Well, it's kind of like 2.5, but I'll tell you about that later. So at any rate, here's the matching pocket. It was easier for me just to show you than to put it on. Let's get that a little closer, see if it'll... It's the same matching fabric. Now there is not a pattern for pockets with the Pleasant Company patterns, but I've made enough pockets for like human-sized pockets to pretty much know the shape of a pocket. So just kind of approximated about what size. I took a piece of paper and stuck her hand in it, and I was like, that's about the right size for a pocket. And so I just made a smaller pocket. And sometimes there are sets of pockets. In this case, it's just one pocket. Now, Felicity is wearing her Pleasant Company stays, but I did make a matching corset. Now, there are some differences between the corsets and the stays, but at the time, this was the only pattern I had. So everybody got a pair of corsets. And so as I go through, I will make everyone something that is appropriate for their time period. I don't know what's going on with the focus, but I just wanted you to see the, see if I can get it to focus. No, it's not happy, but I wanted you to see the hand-sewn eyelets. I'm particularly happy with this set of eyelets. And then this one has the hooks in the back. You'll see more of these as I get into the Victorian era, of course, because everybody has them. So Elizabeth is only half dressed. And let me explain why. Okay, so first of all, I did finally find the other shoe. And if you notice, this shoe is made to match that petticoat. This particular petticoat is reversible. So on the other side is a light blue. And also on the back side, let me turn her. I really do need to make another Lazy Susan. On the back side is a dark blue. And let me show you why. So when I first started, I was making a petticoat. I was making a petticoat for every outfit. And it's actually easier to not make a petticoat for every outfit. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to do that. I didn't want to have like a basic color where it slides underneath, which would still be totally accurate. I just wanted to have a little more variety. So what I actually did was when I put this petticoat together, well, first of all, I decided on the color scheme. And so this flower pattern right here, it has a really nice blue in it. And I've made the dress out of the flower pattern, which is the same English gown style that's made from the Christmas dress that you saw on the other dress. So basically, it's the same outfit, except I did some ruching on this one, a little. So I figured I would combine the blue and this flower pattern. And there's actually two different blues on this. If I could get this thing to focus, you may be able to see that. In the blue flower, there's a light blue and a dark blue. So I took a scrap of light blue and just basically turned it to face the inside of this petticoat. And then for the other side of the petticoat, I used a darker blue. I took that same dark blue and made another dress. Same style. So now I can use the petticoat. And I'm just going to kind of pop this on quickly. You can use the petticoat for this dress. So she's got a couple different looks. Let's pin that close really quick. Pay no attention to the fact that I stick pins in my dolls. I stick pins in all my dolls. Okay? So you get that look right there. Let me see if I can brighten it up for you just a bit. Maybe that helps. Okay? I could turn the petticoat and you would have a light blue underneath this dress. Or I could spin it around and you would have the darker blue that matches underneath it. So that is 3 different looks right there. Or I can have this dress on. With a completely matching petticoat. Right? I could lift it, turn it around, lift it inside out is what I'm trying to say. And it would match with this blue, light blue petticoat. Or I could turn it around, match it with the dark blue petticoat. This particular outfit I also could match with the red petticoat from Felicity's school outfit that she was just wearing. That was a quick way for me to get 3 different looks without having to have a bunch of petticoats. So depending on whatever I decide to do next, I might get one where, because this one is, both of them are doubled, I should say, but this is doubled with the blue, darker blue on both sides. And this is doubled with the flower pattern and the light blue. So I could essentially have 4 different petticoat looks from that one petticoat and the matching shoes. So this one by far is one of my favorite outfits, mostly because I absolutely love this brocade fabric. It was just a scrap of fabric I found at Praxis Fiber Studio, and it was just enough to make this dress a pocket and another caraco jacket, which I haven't quite finished. So this is the petticoat that goes with this jacket. It's a heavy satin, very heavy satin. And you can see it's the same English gown. And I'm missing her fichu. It's floating around here somewhere. But there's a lace fichu that matches the lace around her sleeve. I don't know. I'm not really sure why I didn't put lace around the collar, which is pretty traditional. I don't know, but this particular fabric was a beast to work with. Well, I lined it, and I really had to, because as a brocade, you can see all the woven on the inside, and it was pretty much, shredding away as I worked with it. So everything is lined on it. Absolutely wonderful fabric, though. It's really pretty. So just one of my favorites. So it basically has the same shape that you're familiar with. Now, Elizabeth's gown, let me go ahead and swap Elizabeth out. Elizabeth, oh boy. Elizabeth's gown is the Christmas gown, the Pleasant Company pattern. So pretty much I did it just like the pattern with one small exception. So here's the ruching around the top with the lace and the petticoat, the dress, the pinner, and I made 2 of these stomachers that are pinned in. I cut the pinner cap. I never actually finished the pinner cap. So here's the stomacher pinned in. And at this point, this is like one of the first ones I tried to make. I was attempting to put a piece on to make it more like a sack gown, but it never quite worked out the way I wanted. So that's where I left it. At some point, I'll stitch it in, but it's just this kind of random piece. Oh, when I made this dress, I was looking for yellow satin, and they just didn't have any good satin at Joann's. And so this is kind of what I came up with, but it's all right and it works. So somewhere in somebody else's basket is a group of missing fichus. And I can only imagine it has to be Caroline, because I can't think of anybody else who would need them. And this is last dress. This is not like one of my best ones, but this is one of the first ones that I made when I first got the dolls. And this was a pattern from Etsy. And I kind of want to say it's Mother of 9. May or may not be. So here's the deal. Like I said, you really have to measure. Well, you really should measure each doll, because they're all a little different. But especially if you have Pleasant Company or the very early Mattel dolls, and you are working with patterns that have been produced in the last, 15, 20 years or whatever, from the Etsy sellers. The dolls have gotten smaller, not just the stuffing in their torsos, but actually their arms. And so this particular dress fits very tightly on this Pleasant Company Felicity. If I had been thinking, I would have put it on Elizabeth, who was, 2007, I think, or somewhere around there. Originally, when I made this dress, I only had Kit and Addie. So it fits perfectly fine. Well, I don't want to say it fits perfectly fine, but it fit okay on 2001 kit. Maybe still just a bit snug, but it fit. And I think I remember having to undo it and scamp the seams to make it fit. It definitely is a little tight on Felicity, and especially because she is wearing all of her Pleasant Company undergarments. And so you have to make sure when you are getting the historical patterns, if you plan on putting historical undergarments underneath, you have to make sure that that pattern allows for it. When you talk about pattern makers like Pemberley Threads and Thistle and Acorns and Anna Doran Designs, and there's somebody who I'm missing. I cannot remember, but there's somebody else who I'm missing, who does a lot of the historical patterns. Patty Sears, and somebody I've got quite a few of those patterns. I can't remember why I can't remember, but at any rate, when you're making those patterns, a lot of times they will specifically say that they are sized to fit the undergarments underneath, especially like Pemberley Threads and Thimbles and Acorns, because they make the undergarments in their line of patterns. So you know that you can put on the chemise or the shift or the combinations or the corset or the hoops or the quilted petticoat or several petticoats or the bum roll. Felicity actually is wearing a bum roll, padded bum roll. And so you know that their garments are going to fit. Some of the other Etsy designers, they may or may not fit because they may be designing the patterns to fit dolls like Caroline. And Caroline didn't really come with the type of undergarments that she should have had for the period, or even Cecile and Mary Grace. Cecile had some hoops, but she didn't really come with a lot of the undergarments that she may have worn. And also, as a child, some of those garments she wasn't wearing, but then you're making patterns that are adult style patterns where the adult would have worn an undergarment. So if you're making an undergarment, then that pattern will no longer fit. It may be the outside skirt, the dress, the petticoat. The skirts may be shorter than the petticoat or shift or chemise or whatever it is you're putting underneath there. So that's just a consideration you have to make. Ooh. All right, now, at any rate, this particular outfit came with mostly everything. There was no set of stays, or in this one, this is a 1770, I think. Supposed to be a 70 English gown, I want to say roughly. And so there were no stays. Might have been earlier, but what it did come with, I'll show you. So you can see how wide this dress is. Well, the petticoat anyway, because this is a two-piece jacket in the back. I really like the side construction. And this is a court dress. It actually came with a pattern for panniers. Okay, so I don't quite have them on snug because they were hard to snug, but you can almost kind of see that wide shape. And what I did in this case is I put them right on top of Felicity's pocket hoops. So that way I didn't have to take off everything she's wearing. But you can see that nice wide shape there. So it was a pretty cool outfit. And I made that some time ago. Now that I've gotten a lot more experience, I definitely plan on making a couple of those again, complete with everything that comes with them. And the cap, I want to say this cap was part of the pattern. And there should be a matching tissue that is that kind of delicate. I think I actually used a sheer curtain for that one. So, okay, so basically that's it. I felt like this was a super long video. This was actually really hard because it's really hot here now. It's almost August here in Ohio, and it's been really hot. And so I had a hard time really focusing and concentrating and redressing all of the dolls with all these different components, especially these two. And it's probably going to be like that up until Samantha, because all of these girls from the 1770s right up until the early 1900s have all of these undergarments, and I'm putting all these layers on them. And I'm doing that because to me, being historical is a big part of it is being historically accurate, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to sew for these dolls anyway. I had some barriers to entering the historical reenactment world, and this is kind of my way to do it. So I'm making them as historical as possible, and it's quite a little tedious thing to get all their little pieces together. But I will try really hard to perfect my setup and try to get a more professional vibe as I go along. I don't really have a great eye for photography, so I'm working on that too. But just bear with me. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to see anything that I probably should have shown and didn't show you, just let me know in the comments. All right, take care. Have a great day.